Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope everybody has had a wonderful day. We've had a quite interesting day with a lot of interesting things occurring on with different types of sectors within the market. However, the broader market in the S&P 500 closing near all-time highs. And what we saw in the overnight session last night when we made our last video, that large sell-off was quickly bought up today. And we see a lot of resiliency in the broader market and even in the small cap index, just looking at IWM. Looking at some interesting plays that are moving forward into the end of the year. And now with Palantir also doing a very good job in terms of its resiliency. And what its current price is, it's going to be possibly testing some resistance with the kind of interesting kind of low volume chop up that we're seeing, which is still bullish because we're still continuing to see this kind of end of the year rally that could possibly play out. Now, if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos where we'll be talking about everything in the market. We're trying to hit 30,000 subscribers, and follow me on X down below because I've been trying to talk and interact with you guys more on a daily basis on there. Now, I'll pop it up on the screen here. Palantir closes right here at about 187. It's currently trading right about the same price. We're not seeing any big move on futures or anything like that. Same thing with Palantir. No big news. The most recent big news, of course, was that large contract with the U.S. Army that we saw. That's like $448 million or something crazy like that in terms of their operating system to help with shipbuilding in the Navy. In terms of the actual technical structure for Palantir, there's a lot of consolidation. We talk about this all the time between the 170 and the basically 184, 185 area. We've seen a nice base and accumulation zone that's been formed there for Palantir. After these recent dips that we've had with the stock, you see Palantir starting to climb back up here and is now at that high resistance point and could be testing this 190, which is an important resistance point. The last time Palantir broke above that 190 zone is where you saw its run after its last earnings back up to over $200 here. So I still think that's possible in the short term, depending on the macroeconomic structure, which right now the bulls, I think, have control, in my opinion. So, hey, maybe we'll revisit 200 again, depending if this can break above 190. That's where things can get quite interesting for this individual stock. Now, talking about some interesting moves right today, we saw space stocks that are really starting to take off, looking at ASTS, looking at things like Rocket Lab that have really made some big moves. I mean, look at this here just for ASTS. Now, we've talked about ASTS before on the channel in terms of building the whole cellular Broadcom infrastructure within space, and why we're seeing a ton of bullish pressure into these two space stocks in particular, ASTS and Rocket Lab, is because right here we're seeing this word a lot. Data centers, first of all, we know the whole AI compute, the major limitation, the bottleneck is power, and we've seen some of the big CEOs that have been talking about data centers in space. Now, I have varying opinions on this, but what we're seeing right here, Amit had posted this, and I agree with this, is that the market right now is absolutely front running this on top of this potential of the SpaceX IPO. We've been seeing more of this across X about a possible SpaceX IPO, and their corporate value right now is estimated at about 1.5 trillion. As we know, that's actually the current Tesla market cap right now. So with SpaceX, with a possible IPO in 2026, that's what we're seeing here. They're saying here is practical. We don't have the official confirmation, but practically, you see the market that's really front running this, especially with the whole data centers and space idea. That's where you're seeing Rocket Lab and why ASTS is getting a ton of buying pressure right now as we speak. I mean, ASTS had that nice breakout from 50 all the way to 100 here with that pullback basically back to 50, and is now right now at $84, up about 7% in the day. Rocket Lab was up like 9%. You can see right here on the day at $62. So lots of liquidities coming into here, especially on these swing trades. We'll see what happens. My opinion on this, on the data centers in space, I think we'll get there one day. However, I think that's a little rush, and we're not going to see that for quite some time. The main thing is I think we need to build the data centers on the ground first, and that's looking at some of the big data center stocks, like Nebius, CoreWeave, Cypher, and IREN. We got to build the data centers on the ground and get the whole neo cloud type of compute infrastructure that needs basically to keep up with the demand that we're seeing for AI compute and power needs, I think, before we start launching these things in space. But I do think we get there one day. However, I think the market really is front running it as we speak. In terms of kind of the tech sector, what we're seeing with AI in response, last night, Oracle had the earnings that the market did not like, and we saw Oracle being sold off quite quickly, with the S&P 500 closing at all-time highs. But we're seeing things like the Magnificent Seven, and especially a rotation out of the tech sector. This isn't a bearish thing by all means. Rotation out of these sectors can actually be good for the general market in terms of looking into other stocks that can help benefit from a growing U.S. economy, but also to take some frothiness out of the tech stocks, because that's the most popular traded stocks for the tech stocks. So a rotation here, especially after the FOMC, the interest rate cut decision. With Oracle right here, you have some uncertainties, of course, with the revenue that was missed, and also with their capital expenditures, and taking on an insane amount of debt to try to fund the AI infrastructure, as they're trying to compete with all these different AI companies. So as we see, Oracle, they tumbled about 11% after hours. Where they sit right now in terms of trade price is at 197. So Oracle is kind of rebounding a little bit off of these moves. You can see here over the last week, they were hanging out right about 222. We see a little bit of some basing right here. Hit this kind of local bottom at 188, and now seeing some buying pressure back to 197. So still bullish, of course, in the whole AI infrastructure play. Some rotation, I think, is healthy, especially as we gear up for kind of the year-end moves. And with the S&P 500 ending right here at 6,900, that's pretty awesome. The 52-week the year-to-date high is at 6,220. So I think, especially right now, we do have a 7,000 possible price target. I think that can definitely happen, especially with IWM here at 258, doing quite well above its 200 and above its 50-day right here. You can see IWM is having quite a nice breakout with what we've seen compared to the scaling of that got messed up. In terms of IWM right here, having a nice breakout for what we've seen year to date. In terms of kind of the general consensus on cryptocurrency, we'll be talking about that here. You have this here from Watcher Brewer saying that the SEC approves DTCC plan to tokenize stocks, bonds, and treasury. And we know tokenization is something that is going to be kind of the next move for crypto in terms of its utility. And how do we get this synergy between traditional financial and DeFi sectors and cryptocurrency, and how do we bring all those things together? Tokenization is kind of the big product that I think Wall Street's going to try to get a hold of. We see Bitcoin right here still at about 92,000, Ethereum at 3,200. Bitcoin not making a ton of moves, just been kind of hanging out here, literally kind of like over the last month now. After we saw Bitcoin that pulled back from about 120,000, Bitcoin now here at about 92,000. Ethereum, like I said, at about 3,200. What we are seeing behind the scenes, though, Tom Lee still accumulating stocks like BMNR, or accumulating Ethereum for stocks like BMNR at a rapid pace. I saw here on a podcast that basically close to 4% of the Ethereum supply right now, when staking is going to be going live, that's going to be announcing about $1 million a day, which is quite crazy. And just looking at BMNR right here at a specific, stock price, currently at about $39.20. Now, BMNR is very interesting in the fact that we've seen a reversal here at above the 27s. It's back above its 200-day. I think once BMNR, and if Ethereum also, of course, Ethereum has a strong basically implication on BMNR stock price. Once this can get above its 50-day moving, we see it popping, we could see some swings that are probably going to be more volatile within the stock. Now, this is already a very volatile stock. 50 days right at about 43.32. I think once we recapture this, once BMNR can kind of hold this $40 level of support, of course, like I said, all dependent on Ethereum's price, since it's kind of subject to Ethereum's movements, that is where you could see more bullishness coming back into BMNR. Looking at some of the data center stocks, let's talk about that. Looking at Nebius right here, still below 100. I like this, below 100 at 93. CoreWeave, haven't done a ton of research on here. A lot of people are kind of beating this down at 86 right now. And you see Cypher right here at 1874 and IREN. I do like Cypher and IREN here for the short term, especially with IREN. It's making some pretty strong support levels right at about this 40 right here. People on X have been talking about this triple bottom. So I do like that. I think if we have some volume that comes in here, and if this gets validated, these could be positive moves for these going forward. In terms of the financial type of sector. Looking at SoFi, I think SoFi right here could possibly have another back run to 30 in the near future. Of course, these are all short-term predictions, so we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, keeping bullish. And also, I'm getting more interested in Path. I've traded Path before, but getting more interested to possibly looking to get some more exposure back to this. Let me know what you think down about all this down in the comments. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.